You're listening to Help for Mothers, the podcast that helps mothers with health, education, love, and protection, with co-hosts Augustine Colebrook, a maternal child health investigator, and Keisha Chiapinelli, a human rights attorney. Together, we dissect one segment of maternity health crisis in the United States every week.
Okay, so you introduce yourself and we'll just take it away.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm an astrologer from Perth, and I'm passionate about psychological astrology, helping people find themselves through their own psychology, using astrology as a tool.
Oh, that's amazing. So that's exactly what I was hoping we could chat about today. What does that mean? What is psychology through astrology? To me, that seems like mind-bending kind of a combo. So tell me how you came to know this and what you mean by it.
So with astrology has many facets, and you can use it for prediction. You can use it to choose a partner, to look at buying a business, setting up a house. For me, I'm interested in how a person operates, how they can help themselves, what patterns, habits, lineage that they inherit. And it's about the personal journey for me. I'm not interested necessarily in prediction, because there is no fabulous outcome if the work isn't done on a daily basis with the tools that you have. And that's what astrology is for me. It's a set of tools. We're born with a set of problems, and we also have a set of solutions. And they are worked out through our line, through our inheritances. And by using astrology, we have an opportunity to have a peer in to what we've inherited and to what are we going to do with that? How do we make that serve us rather than just be at the mercy of it, banging and crashing through life going, wow, what's wrong with this picture? We have an opportunity to work smart, not hard, and transmute, come to our fullest potential, rather than just get through a lifetime and do it all again.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people who feel like a bit disillusioned. They come to some part of their parenting journey, somewhere in the middle, where kids are just unruly and starting to break out on their own paths, and they're like, what is the point? What is happening here? Or sometimes, like, I remember very distinctly holding my brand new first baby, 10 months of pregnancy in my situation, and, days of labor and this hard process. And I'm looking down at this soft, squishy little pink, darling rosebud mouth. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? Like, consciously, I understood what mothering was, but then it hit me so much deeper that, like, there was this being that had come through me, and I was responsible for her life and her health and happiness and everything. And at the same time, sort of esoterically thinking, and yet I'm not responsible for any of it because she's her own person, like, this is not mine. That great Cahill Gibran quote, they come through you, but they're not for you, And I wonder, like, tell me more about what you've seen with the mothers that you've worked with or in this realm.
Well, because the thing is that, that we inherit a legacy.
Yeah.
Through, we inherit a legacy, and then our children inherit that legacy. And this is the beauty of astrology, is that we have an opportunity to change that legacy for them, because whatever work we do as mothers on that legacy is not handed to our children. It's less for them. And then they only have to do their work, not their work, our grandmother's work, and so forth, backwards through the line, because it comes as a tidal wave through that line. And so astrology gives you what it is that you're bringing, what it is you have to work with. And the more work we do, the less our children reflect back to us, the less they have to deal with. Everything about the process. You can look in astrology and see how you're going to birth. what that birth process will look like, because that is, again, another legacy. You know, how you will carry it in your body, how your body will behave, what is your default. We have opportunity to change that. Our default does not necessarily mean it's set in concrete. It just means that when we're stressed and in trauma, and we're in a trauma response, or in a fear response, or in a pain response, that's what we will default to. When we understand that and we heal that, then we don't have to default. We can actually be totally in the driver's seat of birth process, of mothering, of all of it, because we're not triggered back to the defaults. So astrology kind of shows you all of those, and it gives you all the tools in your personality to heal it. So there's nothing that you can't transcend or transmute in your personality.
Wow. Wow. And that's kind of a remarkable statement, because a lot of people think, like, this nurture versus nature debate, a lot of people think that they are who they are. But I love your fluid and flexible notion. So will you give us an example? Because I think some people have this idea that, like, especially in the US, that an astrologer is this mystic who sits in a tent at the fair, you know, like.
No, do you know, I tell you that in the Middle Ages, the only two people ever present at a birth was a midwife and the astrologer.
I love that. Oh.
So the astrologer would sit in the corner and erect the chart while the baby was being born. Wow. So it's a very, very old, and all of that has always come through, that we're mapped with this beautiful blueprint, and it really is a blueprint, and it is absolutely changeable within your parameters. I mean, you're not going to change nationality. You are
position of planets, probably. You can't move the planet.
You know, there's certain things that you're not going to have, you know, but within the realms of your narrative, you can change that story. And when you understand that, you have power to do something different. You can be in the driver's seat.
Wow.
So, and you can take,
give us
and
an
you
example.
can change I'm just trying to think. Well, I mean, say trauma in a family comes through a line, you can choose that trauma, whatever that is in my family line, that stops with me. I choose to do, I recognize it, I understand the emotion as it comes up, but instead of collapsing into it and going, well, that's my story, you know, my mother did that, my grandmother did that, that's our history, I can go, no, my children won't inherit that. That will not be part of their legacy or their history or their experience. And so it is about being conscious. You have to be conscious, because the default will always be to have the same response as every other family member. It takes work, definitely. And consciousness, being aware. You know, there are certain things, you know, you've got, you know, genetically there are things we inherit, but then there's epigenetics, which is the emotional carryover, the emotional legacy. And so that's where the work gets done. I mean, obviously there's things we cannot change. If you, you know, are born with a physical blockage to fertility, say, you can do everything medically to change it. But there's, you know, and you can do everything emotionally, but you still may have to just accept that that is a blockage. But within your parameters, you can do whatever you can to get around that fertility in another way, emotionally or mentally, or be fertile in another area of your life.
It's so fascinating. Well, so I think, again, some Americans are very familiar with astrology, but many are not. And I wonder if you would just kind of walk our listeners through like what it looks like? So somebody calls you out of the blue and they're like, can I have an appointment with you? What does that look like? What happens?
So in order to have an astrology chart done, I would take your time of birth, date of birth, place of birth. A chart would be drawn up that uses the latitude and longitude of where you're born, the distance from mean time, which is in England, so a time distance, and a chart is drawn up, and basically it is a map of the heavens at the precise time that you're born, given the latitude and longitude of the point on the planet that you're born. And that looks at your blueprint. That's your, no one else is like you. You are a complete universe. Even if someone's born 3 kilometers down the road at the same time, you are different. You're your own universe. And so it's like a map. And it's your mud map. It's your road map to life, because it gives you all of the challenges that you're going to face throughout your life on all levels. Relationship, finances, having babies, birthing, the whole process, everything's there. Everything that you can potentially encounter, but also it gives you every tool. So you're not ever given a problem without a solution.
I love that. We talk about that in herbology too, right?
Yes,
because the solution to the poison is always growing right near it. Like it's always,
which is what homeopathy is too. Homeopathy works in the same way. So yeah, the problem is the cure.
Wow.
And so astrology is the same. It's a beautiful blueprint of what you have to work with in this lifetime.
Wow.
And it comes loaded, of course.
Yeah.
It's I've never seen a chart that's just all hunky-dory. Everyone's got everyone. We all look out. Well, we all look outside and look at everyone and go, "Oh wow, I wish I was like that," or "I wish I had that quality." Everyone wants what the other person is working.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's very interesting, and it's a fascinating job, because I get to peer into a million different ways to be on this planet.
Yeah.
A million different ways to process, a million different ways to understand and negotiate the world. And I love it because it's exciting, and there's no Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
And every single person has the potential to raise to their highest octave and live their fullest life.
Well, so do you have any advice for mamas who might be listening without necessarily accessing a astrologer for their specific natal chart right now, but just like thinking over all these years of learning all these different patterns and all these different processes? Do you have some overarching themes that you wish people knew?
I think that first of all, recognizing patterns, recognizing habits, behaviors, questioning, and not from a place of judgment, from a place of curiosity. Why do I feel like that? Why did I react like that? Why am I angry? Why am I sad? Why am I, and then taking it out further, because we are very much in our own thought process, and we don't necessarily look out and go, well, there's a habit of depression, anxiety, fear, trauma, whatever in our family. Am I in reaction to that? What's tripping me up? But without judgment, because I think the thing is that we all get into judgment. We're really quick to go, oh my gosh, I'm not coping, da 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 da, instead of going, what is that? What's that about? What's my trigger? Yeah. Where am I defaulting to?
Yeah.
And then start to get curious, and how can I look at that differently? What might that be about?
Yeah. And like you said, astrology is one tool, that you
It
can
is.
start to get curious about it. What are some other tools that you've used in your lifetime? Because I know you have a vast array of experience in a lot of areas. What are some other tools?
So things for me, I mean, I always go, as we talked earlier, I go to homeopathy as a really good tool for healing. I'm all about natural healing as much as possible. I think I'd always go there first as my first port of call. And I always look at, whenever something happens, regardless of whether it's physical or mental, I always look at the emotional and psychological process around it. What's going on for me? Where am I at? What do I need to look at? And then I'll always treat myself homeopathically with the emotional support that I need. And then I go out from there. If that doesn't work, I'll seek counselling. If that doesn't work, I'll go and see a doctor and get whatever I need. I don't end up there because I do the work back here. And I think that being aware is the key. Being awake to the pattern is understanding it. Some people fall out of their childhood home and they know straight away that it's dysfunctional. Just go, wow, I'm out. That's enough. And they get away and they start working back there before they even encounter having children. But some don't realize because it's subtle. And so they don't realize that, they're struggling with, and it doesn't have to be big for some people. It can be small things, but it's still a carryover that gets passed on. We do certain things and we just keep doing it and not realizing that we don't have to.
Yeah.
We have choice.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. So what are some of these choices? You say, like, somebody is presented, if you do a reading or someone gets a reading, and online auto-generated horoscopes are not the same thing.
Personal.
Right?
It's not personal.
Right.
Yeah, it's not personal. And the thing is that it's literally auto-generated. And as a reader, I'm sitting in your energy. So it's not just that I'm looking at your astrology and I have that knowledge of learning astrology. I've been doing it for 30 years, but I'm also an empath by my nature. And so I'm able to sit in your energy and absolutely tune in to where you're at. I can absolutely understand where you're coming from, why you think the way that you do, where you learnt it.
Yeah.
And how you can unlearn it. And where to look for solutions. Not just knowing that they're there, but actually, this is it. This very behavior is the key to that behavior.
Wow. I love it.
Because, we carry genetic fear. Fear is our biggest enemy.
Oh, wait a second. We carry genetic fear?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Whoa, yeah.
Unpack that one for me. Tell me more about what you mean by that. That's fucking intense, man.
Well, of course we do, because the thing is, when you talk about epigenetic, when I look at astrology and I look at a family line of astrology, I can see every single trauma that every single family member's gone through and who's inherited what. So in a family, in a household, one child might inherit the denial. One child might inherit the anger. Right, that's it. I'm going to be angry about the family stuff. One child will be like, no, there was no family stuff. I don't remember anything ever happening ever. Then you've got another child in the family that inherits the grief. And so they're always holding the emotions for the family. And so we inherit all these traits, but we also inherit the fear. And we all get the fear. We don't all get the expression of it, but we all get the fear. Where the expression of it is how we react to that. So one will react in grief from fear. One will react in anger from fear. One will be in complete denial from fear it's not happening. And so we have all these different dynamics going on in families. But the fear is the core, not the expression of it. And so then when you're able to unpack it with a family, you're able to say, right, well, you express it through grief and big emotions, and you try and rescue and solve all the problems and save everybody. And so that's how you express your fear. And you get really angry and you're screaming at everybody and throwing the dummy out of the cot. And that's how you express the fear of the family stuff. And so you can kind of unpack it as a family. It's amazing. And it's really interesting. And when you get down to your own stuff and you go, okay, that's how I negotiate fear in the world, then the key is to get out of fear, right? So that you're not defaulting into this meltdown mode and going, okay, I'm actually in fear. So what do I need to do about that? And what am I afraid of? And what is the worst case scenario? And how can I actually pull it back so that I'm you know, we're not always in the power of everything. We're not always in control. There's no such thing. But to the best of what we're capable of, being able to go, okay, how do I drive this from a place of not being in my trauma response?
Yeah.
Can you see that in family dynamics?
Oh yeah. In prenatals or in the birth room, suddenly, like at that crucial moment, everything's amplified, and you look around, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay,
yeah. And and you'll never. It's very, very uncommon, Augustine, to see the same response in a family. They all pick up a different pattern,
flavor, like a flavor of fear.
They do. And it's almost all emotions are represented at the table. So it's really fascinating when you get into astrology at the level of that lineage, family, personal, psychological astrology. It's absolutely fascinating.
I love it. And then because I had the pleasure of actually having a reading from you, there's this other thing you do, and this is like transits or progression. Will you tell us what that means?
Right. So transits are, so you're born with your blueprint, right? And that's your original mud map. And then transits are taking the planets of the day that you come. So they're right up to the minute. So it's a snapshot of the planets on the day that you arrive, and it's overlapped over your birth chart. And what that looks at is, what are you going through now? What is happening to you at the time that you come? And also, because those transit planets, the planets that are in the sky on the day you come, they are tracking a course. You are able to predict how you're going to play this out, how you're going to work through a situation, what tools, again, you have in your mud map. And it shows you. So it actually is empowerment. Again, for me, I'm not necessarily about prediction. I'm more about empowerment. For me, it's like, okay, this is what's happening to you at the moment. These are the tools you have to negotiate it. And then progressions are taking your natal birth chart, and each year the planets move by a degree. So they move around like a clock. By progression, what happens is that this is your personal growth. So this is how you personally, your character, your personality has progressed to the age you are. So it's not about prediction. It's more about your personal growth, who you've become.
Wow.
Because ideally, you don't want to be the same person that you were born with. You want to have progressed.
Yeah, growth. It's the name of the game there. Yeah. And can you do that into the future or only to the present?
No, you can go as far forward as you want. Because we have what they call an ephemeris, which shows where the planets are tracking for the next 50 years.
Wow.
And further, we're always looking ahead because the planets move, they each have a trajectory. They each move the moon is a 28-day cycle. It doesn't change. It's never, ever going to just turn into a 40-day cycle.
Let's hope not, or maybe there'd be bigger problems.
Yeah. So all of these planets, we can track ahead and go, okay, when you're in your 50s, this is what might happen, and this is what you'll be encountering. And so it's really useful.
That's
It gives
fascinating.
you, again, solutions.
Yeah. And on another wavelength, I've seen astrologers use the tool of astrology to do readings for a marriage or the start of a business.
Absolutely, 100%. So I do all of those things. So I even choose, I have clients that come to me that I've had for years, and they will, like just recently, I helped a couple have a baby that couldn't have children through IVF. And I tracked her ovulation and said, this is your day, go here. They did it, it was all done, as away from
medically.
Medically, it was not done medically.
Oh, wow.
It was not done medically. And they also chose the sex of their baby, all of it. It can all be done through astrology. Is something else. Each sign of the zodiac is male or female. And when the moon is in a certain sign, that's what you'll conceive.
Chinese astrology has a fertility charts and also has sex.
It's the same. They're all the same. Vedic astrology, which is the Indian one, the Chinese, and all of that, it's the same. But also, I have chosen weddings, dates for weddings, dates for engagements, dates for, I do a lot of fertility. I have a lot of women that come that have tried IVF through the conventional way, which is worked out through your menses. It doesn't work because your menses can change. You move into a household full of women and you all align and your menses changes. What we clock into is your ovulation cycle, which is completely different. That is like a metronome and never ever changes. But your menses does, because it's water, it's fluid, it moves with the tides. So if we're stressed, we stop. If we're stressed, we can, bleed for weeks. We can have either end. That is always a changing. But our ovulation is a metronome, and it does not change. And so with astrology, we clock in. And you are born into your cycle. So from the day you are born, you are in a cycle. And it never changes till you die. And so all like we breathing. Do is align.
Like a heartbeat.
And so, 100%. And it doesn't change. And there's no arrhythmia. And so all we do, and I actually found out about this through a naturopath. She actually put me onto it and got me working with it with astrology, is we clock into that metronome. And we just say, this is the day you will ovulate. And if you ovulate on a male moon sign, you're going to have a boy. If you ovulate on a female moon sign, you're going to have a girl. And so I have a lot of clients that come to me because they've had 4 girls and they desperately want a boy. So we jack it up.
Wow, I love it. I love it.
It's not luck.
It's predictable.
It's good management.
It's good management. Listen to you. It's so awesome. Well, so another way that astrology is used is looking at the astrology of a country.
Mm-hmm. So astrotopography, it's called.
Astrotopography. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So again, the world is mapped out.
Yeah.
Okay, into signs of the zodiac and planets and all of that. And so we have what we resonate with. And so this is why some people can move to a country and have an amazing experience and tell all their friends, and their friends turn up and it all turns to custard for them. And they go, wow, why didn't it work for me? It's because it didn't align with their astrology narrative. And so doing astrotopography helps you find the places that you are going to resonate at your highest. But, I do some of it. It's not really what I'm about. I love it. But for me, I think if you tune in to who you are, you'll already know where you need to be.
Mm, I love that.
You know,
I
you'll
practice that.
already know.
I practice
Yeah,
listening for the quiet invitation, the whispering on the
absolutely.
wind, like, come here, come here.
Come to Bangalore.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I love it.
And I think that for me is just as important as having the scientific, you know, the planets, the signs, the da 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 da. I mean, for me, the way that I work as an astrologer is far less scientific.
You're
I'm
very
very
intuitive.
much, yeah.
Yeah.
And I look at how you're behaving, what it is that's going on, you know, and I can see astrology as a series of behaviors rather than a series of planets and signs, and makes it hard to teach.
Yeah.
Makes it very hard to teach because I'm feeling it. I'm experiencing the behavior. I know exactly what that feels like. But I also have the capacity to be able to say that particular behavior, that is rooted in X, Y, and Z. And I can take you there and go, this is what this really is about. And that's where it's useful.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, so let's come back to our mamas for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, we got sidetracked.
No, I took us there. Don't worry. I love it. Well, just thinking about new mamas and all of the challenges in front of them and all of the societal challenges, physical, emotional, spiritual, familial, like all the things.
Yeah.
What's your biggest advice? How do we help mothers?
Well, I think understanding ourselves is key. Rather than getting advice from books, other mothers, all of that kind of stuff, we actually need to go, how do I need to parent? What tools do I have? How do I find myself in this? Because you can have a whole host of advice from, you know, books and videos and all that kind of stuff, but then the bottom line is, if you don't know you're struggling. You're struggling. You're feeling even more alien to it because you're alien to you. So I think coming back to yourself and being really inside your own process is absolutely key, because if you don't understand that, then nothing that anyone else is throwing at you is going to be helpful.
And how do you do that? How do you find yourself?
Astrology.
I love it.
Well, I tell you, so when I look at a chart, so things that I look at when I'm looking at fertility as an example, or when I'm looking at someone who's preparing for birth, the things that I look at are their sun sign, their moon sign, their rising sign, and their Mars. Because the sun sign is how they identify with themselves. Their moon sign is their truth, their emotionality at the core. Their rising sign is how they present to the world. So it's how they generally kind of get it done. And then Mars is how they birth, because that's their issue. It's the way they issue forth. It's the process of birth. It's the way that they issue out. So I always look at those areas. And by just having those five keys, I'm able to see who they think they are, how they really are, how they're really feeling, what they're negotiating emotionally, what they're showing the world, so how they're being interpreted by others, and how their birth process is effectively going to look.
It's so fascinating.
Then you hand it back to them on a platter and they can do the work, because they're then feeling they've got permission. They can see all of those things, because of course there's nothing in your astrology you're not going to identify with 100%, because it's who you are. There's nothing arbitrary, and there'll be never ever any surprises.
I love that. Well, so can I put you on the spot for a second?
Yes, please do.
You are on the spot. You're
a little late for that.
Yeah, right. I already did that. Well, so I'm looking at this beautiful chart that you did for me.
Yes.
And
yes.
my Mars is in Scorpio. So what does that mean?
So it means that your birth processes are going to be intense, profoundly life-changing. And Scorpio is on the axis with Taurus, so often with Scorpio you can experience deep back labor, and you know, it really pulls you down. It's that heavy labor that's long and protracted.
Do you know that I had 3-day labors? Are you aware?
I know.
Yeah.
But I'm just tiptoeing around the edge here.
Yeah, because Scorpio is all that.
And it could have been a near-death experience.
Yes.
It was a near-death experience.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was profoundly life-changing. Yeah. Scorpio brings it.
Yeah.
And the best place for you to help, so how I would have supported you is by getting you in water. Scorpio needs to be near water. It needs to be in water. It needs to be around water. It needs to be in and out of the pool, in and out of the shower. But it is, and meditation, pulling it in on a soul level, because this is actually where it's an inward journey, okay? Scorpio is such a walk down to Hades.
Yeah.
It's
and
not
I have
an
5
outward,
planets in Scorpio.
It's an implosion. It's an implosion, not an explosion.
Yeah.
So so the best place for you is to pull in and to have that real inward experience.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So that's your Mars. And that's just one component. And the other thing I also, you know, look at too with astrology when I'm looking at them is what's in the 12th house. Because the 12th house of our astrology, when we're looking at a chart, we've got from 1 to 12. The first house and that line is what's called the rising sign or the ascendant. That looks at how we emerge. The line is delineated by our emergence to consciousness. Now, what goes before that is the 12th house, which is the unconscious. And that 12th house, for me, relates to the in utero. So we get this real understanding of what our mother was going through, gestating us, her emotional, physical, mental experience of the gestation. And it's also the most profound imprint, because that's from conception to birth, what went in. And also how we birth, so what's on the ascendant, is how we have learned in utero that our mother needs us to be. That's how she needs it, because that's our primal message.
Oh, wow. I still want to unpack this. Wait, slow back up.
The primal message.
This is profound. This is profound.
I know, but the primal message is what we birth. So that's our rising sign, which is how we get things done. It's our deep belief that this is what the world needs from us. It's not a truth. The truth is our moon. That's who we really are. But the ascendant and what's gone in the 12th house describes what we inherited from mum in utero, because that's our primary set of information, right? Is whatever goes on in there from conception to birth. And so the ascendant, when we come out of the unconscious into consciousness with the information, this is what mum needs to keep us alive.
Yeah, right. That's evolutionary.
To love us.
Yes. Right. Well, so can I make it?
Or what she can cope with.
Right.
You know,
Right.
what she can cope with. So say an example is say.
Well, can I give you mine? Because then you can do a real
Please.
concrete example.
Perfect.
So my 12th house is Gemini.
Yes.
And my first house is Cancer.
Right.
So
So
how does that relate?
So in your mum's story, Gemini, the first part of Gemini is too much going on. Lots and lots of balls in the air. Lots of ideas, thoughts, information, umming and ahhing too. Unsure. Am I going forward? What am I doing? We're having a baby. Oh my gosh, can we afford one? Da, 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 da. All this information coming in. So almost overwhelmed with Gemini in the 12th house. And then Cancer is coming in with grief.
Yes, I think you've told me this before.
And so also Cancer means that your mom needed you to nurture, to hold the emotional space, because she couldn't. There's too much going on with the Geminis, just too many balls in the air. So she needed you to be able to hold the space, to be the nurturer, and so what you were born with a Cancer rising, what that ultimately means is that you hold the emotional space for the lineage. All of what no one's wanted to feel, you get to feel.
Yippee!
Yay, you. Good. Oh, wow.
Well, so it's such a great example, and it is 100% resonant, like you predicted. But let's take it one step further, continuing to use this example so that it can be, actualized.
Yeah.
What if someone received this kind of 12th house, first house information and started to really explore this? What do they do with that information?
So when you understand that holding that, it's not yours. It's not who you are either. Who you are is your moon. Then you're able to not be triggered at the front door, carrying all of the weight of the family lineage that's not yours. And so you're able to then process it as not being you. Because, of course, the first thing we identify with is our rising sign. We think, oh, that's who we are, because that's how the world needs us to be. That's what they want to see. But actually, it's not. We're not here for the world. We're here for our own personal journey. And in astrology, the actual most important part of our chart is our North Node, which is the karma that we chose to learn in this lifetime, what we are actually here to do. So yes, we may have come in with this legacy, but what are we here for? And how are we going to do that resonates with our truth? And that's our moon sign. So we have to come back to our core self. So what's your moon in?
My moon is in Aries.
Right. So that is who you are. And Aries is dynamic and moving forward and an initiator. You're not to drag around the family ball of pain, which is what Cancer rising wants to do. Because it gets in your way. It slows you down. It's like dragging around an Olympic pool everywhere you go. So Cancer is how you present. And this is also why you're a midwife and you're a nurturer and you're a carer and you're a facilitator. The truth of it is you're Aries. So you can't unpack and stay in helping people all the time. You have to light the fire and move on. And isn't that what you do?
It is what I do.
And that's when you're in your truth.
Yes, that is.
And what's your North Node in?
Oh gosh, is that the no?
Yep.
Scorpio.
Right. So your actual karmic journey in this lifetime is to transform, transcend, and transmute yourself and others. And Cancer holds the emotional space for that, but Aries gets you going. It's like, no, cut the crap. Let's get going. Let's just get on with it. We're not unpacking and wallowing in this Cancerian crap. We got shit to do. Off we go.
I think that is basically exactly how people describe me.
I know, right? Isn't it divine? And isn't it great to know that you're absolutely fulfilling your karmic journey this lifetime, that you are living to your truth? And I have to say, in astrology, when you're working towards that karmic growth, your life comes together and it falls into place. When you are working against it, trying to juggle everyone else's expectation of you or how they want you to be in the world, it's hard. It's a challenge. You keep butting up against everything. So we all have a reason for being.
Yeah.
And that's our soul's karmic growth.
Yeah.
The rest of our chart is the semantics of whether or not we get that done and how we get that done. And the rising sign is the lineage that we've brought in with us and how we've been taught at a really profound level that the world needs us to behave. It's not necessarily a truth.
That's tweetable, my friend. That's fantastic.
So, I mean, I love astrology. It's so cool because when you get that and it's broken down so simplistically, we don't have to keep jumping through those hoops of family crap. And we take back our power and we're able to then pass on a different legacy to our children.
Living in our truth.
And it's not a repeat. It's not a repeat of the family crap.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant.
So we're able to do that.
I love that. Thank you so much. You've just given us such a gift today. Thank you.
So it's been all over the place. It's like,
but I love it. It's part of the incredible breadth that this covers and giving little tastes of all the little bits. But thank you for the concrete pieces too. And in a kind of big, broad sweep, if someone around the world were listening to this, how would they get a reading? Like how does someone who is not connected into these circles find someone?
Well, I mean, that they can either find me online. I mean, I do have a website, but they could even start by just drawing up their chart. There's, astrology sites, they can draw up their chart and they can look at their moon, their rising, all of those things. They do need a birth time. It is absolutely crucial because that delineates that ascending line and the setup of the chart. And without that, it's very difficult. But if they have that, they can seek an astrologer, get it done. And it really is the most incredible tool you'll ever give yourself, is to have your astrology done. Because it's your first step into really exploring who you are as a person, what makes you tick, how you can get out of your own way and not pass on family rubbish. Because that's also absolutely key. We need a shift on the planet, and it happens at an individual level.
Perfect. Thank you so much for today. Thank you for this interview.
Thank you
for
having
being my
me.
friend and being a connection to me here on this new side of the world. And thank you so much. I appreciate you.
My pleasure, my dear. Thank you for having me.